Thanks for dropping in on the Mountain West Network. We brought in Mountain West football analyst Ted Sundquist and Jesse Kurtz here to break down Week 10 in the Mountain West football season. Got a number of games to get to, so let's start with San Jose State at UNLV. San Jose State just beat Wyoming last week. UNLV beat Nevada in a very emotional game. They're rolling. San Jose State, though, their offense is absolutely on fire right now. They had a combination of a 400-yard passer, a 100-yard rusher, and 3 100-yard receivers. That's the first time that's happened by a Mountain West team since 2007. They're starting to give Fresno State a push for the most dangerous offense in the Mountain West.
They really are. You know, this has always seemed like a league that's been dominated by one or the other. You know, you think of some of the great Mountain West passing attacks over the years that have put up the big individual numbers. You go over, there's the dominant running games of Air Force and then New Mexico over the past few seasons. But to have that kind of productive balance is a testament, I think, to that entire Spartan offense, Jesse. It's kind of surprising to me, given the likes of Boise State and TCU and Fresno and even San Diego State with their skilled players over the years and those dynamic offensive personnel and schemes that they've had. What a great showing by that Spartan offense.
Absolutely, and a tremendous showing by UNLV. They're a win away from bowl eligibility after that emotional win over Nevada, that in-state rivalry for the Fremont Cannon. It'll be the first time they go to a bowl, if they get that bowl eligibility, since 2000. This is a team that's trailed or been tied 4 times at half and come back to win the game. What does that say about the resiliency and what Bobby Hauck has instilled in these guys?
Well, they've come of age. They've matured as a program, as a overall unit, and by that they've learned how to win. That's what I mean there. Confidence in Caleb Herring as their leader has risen the level of play on both sides of the ball, I feel. He's completed 68% of his passes with only 1 interception. They got one of the top passing defenses in the conference. They had the 3rd leading rusher in Tim Cornette. And that veteran leadership in the junior and senior classes, who Coach Hauck told us just got tired of losing. Tani Maka, Tim Hassan on defense, Devontae Davis, and we talked about Tim Cornette on the offensive side. I couldn't be more happier for a coaching staff who's trying to do it the right way.
Devontae Davis, you mentioned that, 10 touchdown receptions so far this season. That's one off the single season record at UNLV. Absolutely. The Rebels and San Jose State will kick off 1 o'clock Pacific time. That'll be streamed exclusively on Campus Insiders and the Mountain West Network. Moving on to Hawaii at Utah State. Hawaii coming off the loss to Colorado State. Utah State 4-4 now. Right now, they were idle last week. Hawaii now going on a very long road trip, 10 days, 10,000 miles. They'll stop in Logan and then go on to Annapolis to take on the Naval Academy. This is a team, for a 3rd time in 4 games, Hawaii had a chance to win or tie the game on the final possession. They're right there. Why can't they get over the hump?
Well, Jesse, the Rainbows are -8 in the turnover margin. They're tied for last in the Mountain West, and they're 11th in long pass plays allowed from scrimmage, as well as 11th in red zone conversion percentage. And I'll give you an example. They had 2 turnovers that led directly to 2 touchdowns by CSU in the first quarter last week. Then they got to the CSU 10 and the 2 and had to settle for field goals. The week before against UNLV, they were at the 8 and had to settle for a field goal. Then got into the 4th quarter and fumbled, and that led to a Rebel touchdown. I think Hawaii is where UNLV was, and it's only a matter of time before they get tired as well and step up their level of play.
Utah State 4-4, 3-1 in conference. Darryl Garrettson, his 2nd career start coming up as a freshman. What impressed you in his first career start a couple of weeks ago?
It's his overall poise and his understanding of the role in the offense. This guy distributes the football to his playmakers. 7 different Aggie receivers contributed with receptions last week. Didn't give the Lobos any additional opportunities, no interceptions, no fumbles, and really was a clutch playmaking quarterback in that first quarter. 2nd and 15 after a fumble had pushed them back. He hits Joey DiMartino for a 21-yard touchdown. And then in the same quarter, 3rd and 13 and 3rd and 9, he's able to convert through the air, which led them to a field goal and really put them up.
Aggie's senior class certainly putting this program on the map. They've won 26 games in 4 years. That ties for the best mark in school history, tied with last year's senior class, 2012, and the 1962 class. So one more, they set a school record at Utah State. Kickoff between the Rainbow Warriors and the Aggies, 2 o'clock Mountain Time. It'll be televised by CBS Sports. Moving on to New Mexico at San Diego State. New Mexico also idle last week like Utah State. San Diego State, they're 3-1, 2-1 in conference. Their first conference loss, an emotional loss to Fresno State by 7. Let's start with New Mexico, who was on a bye week. Where did they focus their attentions in the bye week as they get ready for this Aztec team?
Yeah, defensively, it's got to be tackling. You know, they're 10th in the Mountain West in long scrimmage plays, and most of them have been via the run. 55 of 10 plus, and surrendering some of the longest runs from scrimmage all season in the conference. On the offensive side, they have to concentrate on third down conversions. They're 11th in the Mountain West with just a rate of 36%. The Lobos are a team built to stay on schedule with their option attack. They're last in pass completions at 47%.
Moving on to the Aztecs, San Diego State nearly pulled off one of the biggest wins in school history against Fresno State. Came up just short. Rocky Long says his team showed unbelievable spirit. I happen to agree. I think the most impressive part about that, they held Fresno State's offense, which is certainly one of the best in the country and arguably the best in the Mountain West, to 7 points in the first half. They seem to have gotten things fixed on the defensive side of the ball if you're able to hold the Bulldogs to that little of points through 30 minutes.
Yeah, really. Considering the Bulldogs lead the league in points per game at just over 44, very, very impressive. The Aztecs only had led in 2 of their previous 6 games at the half. Fresno, on the other hand, had never been tied or even trailing in any of their previous 6 wins. In fact, Tim DeRuyter's team has been notorious for getting off to fast starts but then not being able to finish. Rocky Long's defense, I thought, kept Derek Carr off balance for most of the first half with blitzes and stunts, and so what they were able to do to keep that game as close as it was really an outstanding accomplishment.
They'll have their hands full with the Lobo rushing attack, ranks 3rd in the nation. Their quarterback, Cole Gauchi, ranks 3rd among FBS quarterbacks in rushing yards per game. Kickoff 5 o'clock Pacific time. That'll be televised by Root Sports and also Fox Sports San Diego, and then streamed outside of those footprints on the Mountain West Network. Moving on to the big one in Fort Collins. Boise State at Colorado State. Boise State 5-3, 3-1 in conference play. They lost to BYU on Friday night. Colorado State 4-4 right now at the 500 mark, 2-1 in conference play. They beat Hawaii. Let's talk about Boise State. The loss to BYU snapped a 50-game win streak in the month of October for Boise
That's
State.
Insane.
It's tremendous. Of course, injuries, youth, and a tough schedule have certainly plagued the Broncos, along with quarterback and running back depth. With that said, offensively, with a new quarterback, how much is put on Jay Ajayi's shoulders to try to keep them on schedule and really make that offense go?
Well, he's going to be a big part of how they finish out this 2013 season. I mean, he's averaging over 114 yards per game. But the Bronco offense, I feel, has always been best and most lethal when they're balanced. Grant Hedrick is efficient throwing the football, but not the big playmaker that Joey Southwick was at this point in his career. Turnovers are killing them. They stand at -8 or -1 over the first 8 games after leading the Mountain West last year at +20 in 2012. 3 of their next 4 opponents are ranked ahead of them in turnover margin. And those 3 same opponents, CSU, Wyoming, and New Mexico, are all nipping at their heels in points per game. The Broncos are averaging a little over 37. They can ill afford to give those teams some extra possessions.
The Rams offense has shown an ability to put up some points behind Capri Bibbs, who has 12 rushing touchdowns. That's the most by a Rams sophomore, 5th most already in a single season at CSU. And you talk about some of the running backs that have been there, and Kevin McDougal and Cecil Sapp.
Amazing.
That speaks volumes. How big has he been in the Rams' rise back to 500 at this point in the season?
Well, you look at their last 3 wins over 4 games, and he's rushed for 147, 201, 137, and 9 touchdowns. Bibbs averaged about 10 carries per game in August and September. Coach McElwain has leaned on him heavy through the month of October with 24 carries per game. He's a big reason why the Rams have jumped out to huge leads in all 3 of their wins since beating UTEP a month ago.
Rams with back-to-back wins for the first time under Jim McElwain, going for 3 in a row against Boise State. That is a kickoff 6 o'clock Mountain Time at Hughes Stadium. It will be televised by CBS College Sports. Moving on to Nevada at Fresno State. Nevada lost to UNLV in the Fremont Cannon game. Fresno State, of course, beat San Diego State in overtime. Let's start with Nevada. They've lost 3 in a row, including that rivalry game to UNLV. Cody Fajardo said he feels like they let down 450,000 people, and that's on him. That's a lot to take on as a quarterback. How do they bounce back? There's emotional games, and then there's emotional games. That was an emotional loss. How does a team like that snap a losing streak coming off a very tough loss that they suffered Wolfpack against UNLV?
Jesse, it's not going to get any easier. They close out with trips against Fresno State, Colorado State on the road, and then they're home against San Jose and BYU. Statistically, they're near the bottom in every defensive category except passing defense, and dead last in the Mountain West in total defense. Big plays against the defense has plagued this team all season long. The offense is very efficient with third down and red zone conversions, along with not turning the ball over and time of possession as well. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, but the bottom line is the Wolfpack can't keep giving up yardage in big chunks and easy scores.
Nevada has one of the longest current bowl streaks in the country. That's certainly in jeopardy right now. Got to get things going. It's not going to come easy against Fresno State. Right now, the leader in the clubhouse in the Mountain West. They pulled a rabbit out of their hat once again against San Diego State. Blocked a field goal that forces overtime and then win. Is this a team that is playing with fire and is just asking to get burned, or is this a team that just finds a way to pull things out, which would be a quality of a great team?
Well, I've had a chance to see these guys in person. They're a very talented team on offense, perhaps as balanced across the skilled positions as anyone in the Mountain West. You look at Carr at quarterback, Quezada and Waller at running backs, Adams, Burst, Harper at wide receiver, Jensen on tight ends. I mean, that's a pretty good lineup right there. They're feast or famine on the defensive side, and that can come up with big pressure plays, but they've been suspect in giving them up as well. This team can make some noise nationally, I think, for the Mountain West, but they got big road games still against Wyoming and San Jose, not to mention a predicted rematch against Boise State in the title game, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves there. I think they've been playing a little bit with fire. This is a team that really needs to get focused for this last run.
Of course, Fresno State making a play on the BCS rankings, continue to move up. They're 7-0 for the first time since 1991. Kickoff between Fresno State and Nevada. That'll come up at 7:30 Pacific time, be televised by ESPNU. Finally, going out of conference, a big one at the Air Force Academy, big one nationally speaking because what it means, Army at Air Force. The Falcons continue to struggle, 1-7. They're 0-7 against FBS teams, 0-5 in conference play. They lost to Notre Dame rather handily, 45-10. Falcons lost 7 straight. This is a game against Army. It's very winnable. The Black Knights don't come in with one of their better teams. How much would a win in a series like this help this team that is struggling to find anything positive at this point?
Well, Jesse, the goals of this program have always been, and I'm talking way back to Ken Hatfield, and that's win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, win the conference, whether it was the WAC or the Mountain West, and go to a bowl game. And none of these goals now are accomplishable this season. We all know the struggles the Falcons have gone through since the opening day against Colgate. All 3 service academies are pretty much recruit the same kids. And Air Force could regain some bragging rights over the Black Knights, as well as put themselves in a position to tie for the trophy if Army were able to pull off a win against Navy to close out the season. So spoken as a former Falcon, it's always a big game when you're going up against the grunts. So I say beat Army.
Well said. The Falcons were shellacked by the Black Knights at West Point last fall, so maybe some payback. The Falcons at risk of being swept by Army and Navy in back-to-back years. Got to get it done at Falcon Stadium. That'll be a 10 o'clock Mountain kickoff to be televised by ESPNU. Wyoming is off their idle. We'll catch up with the Cowboys next week. For Ted Sundquist, I'm Jesse Kurtz. Thanks for logging on to the Mountain West Network.